When blue faces blue, it rarely disappoints, and this match was a prime example of that. Chelsea 4, Manchester City 4, in a game that showcased the very best and very worst of the Premier League. But what happened in this game, and why? Let's dive in. Lads, lasses and the rest of the masses, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mono from Mono CFC, and this is my post-match tactical breakdown for Chelsea versus Manchester City. We're back to a game that we can actually tactically analyse this time. Though there were individual incidents in the game, and I will talk about those later, this game was dictated by a superb tactical battle between two of the Premier League's greatest minds, a battle that most would agree was won by Chelsea's Mauricio Pochettino. Let's jump straight into this and look at how both teams were set up. First, this was Chelsea's lineup. Not too different from usual. A 4-3-3 with Conor Gallagher, who had a stupendous game by the way, playing in the advanced midfield role, but as he so often does, pushing out wide when needed to allow Cole Palmer to come inside more centrally when he had the ball. Our setup would often change to a 3 at the back system depending on who was going forward at the time. Axel Disasi and Thiago Silva would be the constants in the back 3, but the third man varied largely. This could be Cucurella if James was pushing up the pitch, James himself if Cucurella did, or one of the deeper midfielders, Enzo and Caicedo, dropping into that back 3 to receive the ball and play forward. This was mainly done by Enzo out of the two of them, dropping into the left centre-back role of sorts to collect the ball from Sanchez, and then look further forward for direct passes out from the back, which, as I'll touch on in a little bit here, were vitally important in this game. In contrast, here was City's team. It's set up as a 4-1-4-1, but as I said in my preview before the game, this was always going to play as a 3-2-4-1, and it did change into that formation. The interesting thing here was that Manuel Akanji was fit enough to play, and thus instead of Walker joining the midfield 4 further up the pitch like I thought, the Swiss international filled in directly for John Stones, playing as a hybrid centre-back / defensive midfielder, whilst Walker, Dias and Gvardiol played as 3 centre-backs. Akanji would hold this midfield role when Rodri needed support, but fall back into the left centre-back role when Josko Gvardiol pushed up further to overlap from left-back. This setup from City was incredibly forward-thinking, playing 5 attack-minded players and really trying to step on the gas. But this was to their detriment at times. Poch knew that they were going to try and press us high up the pitch, and thus he formulated a plan to get us playing out from the back whilst avoiding that press entirely, leaving City's defensive line exposed with a large amount of bodies committed forward. The way we did this was pretty simple, honestly. We played the ball long and direct into midfield areas, bypassing the entire City front line with just one pass. We see this happen immediately in the game. Chelsea got an opportunity to attack just a mere 19 seconds into the game, and it all starts from City pressing exceptionally high, and Robert Sanchez just spears a pass from the back all the way through into midfield and gets us on the counter. This was supplemented by Chelsea playing a quick 1-2 touch style of passing, similar to the promising signs we saw from pre-season. As soon as that player in midfield, or slightly further forward sometimes, would receive the ball from that long pass, they pop it off before the City players could react, leaving them out of shape whilst we neatly pass the ball into more advanced areas. After a bright early spell from Chelsea, Man City got a lot of the ball and were trying to implement their attacking game plan, so let's take a look at that and Chelsea's defensive setup at the same time. Chelsea was set up in a 4-4-2 when out of possession. One of either Conor Gallagher or Cole Palmer would stay high with Nicholas Jackson in a forward 2, whilst the rest of the team played in 2 banks of 4. This formed a very solid centre that City would have to navigate, and the easiest way for them to do that was to bypass it completely by going down the wings. With them set up in this 4-1-4-1, they had a bigger focus on getting the ball into wide areas with Doku and Foden, who were supplemented by Bernardo Silva and Alvarez, who also liked to operate from wider areas. This often left Erling Haaland isolated in the centre, but a forward as good as he is positionally doesn't mind that. They work the ball out wide so that they can then work the ball into the box for him specifically. There was one issue with this though. As I hypothesised in my match preview, the game was going to boil down to those individual battles out wide. I highlighted James versus Doku and Sterling versus Walker in that video, but the battle between Cucurella and Foden was equally important, and even more so was the unusual battle between Cole Palmer and Josko Gvardiol. Let's be honest, apart from Cucurella getting beaten a couple of times, all of these individual battles were won by Chelsea players. Doku failed the Reece James test like pretty much every winger does, Gvardiol was made an absolute fool of on multiple occasions, and Raheem Sterling had the game of his life against Kyle Walker, using his agility and trickery to get the better of his ex-teammate like I mentioned he would have to do. The other thing to mention was Chelsea's press when City had the ball in deeper areas. We knew this was going to be vital to get right because City are so comfortable playing out from the back usually, but the ferocious nature of Chelsea's press did unsettle them a few times, forcing City to play long rather than short at times, with the large switches of play often missing their mark or going completely out of play. However, it's from this press that City actually got their first goal, which was controversial to say the least. This was the first major incident in a number of them, so let's talk about what happened here. Chelsea press up the pitch high, and Conor Gallagher steams into a challenge on Ruben Dias, fairly winning the ball but getting injured in the process. City win the ball back, spring a counter-attack up the pitch, the ball is eventually swung into the box, and after it's cleared by Thiago Silva, the referee inexplicably points to the spot, giving City a penalty for at the time seemingly nothing. On the replay, it seems as if Cucurella has dragged Erling Haaland to the floor in the box, but closer inspection and any form of intelligence can see that this is completely farcical. Firstly, the actual foul. You don't even need to look closely to see what's happened here. Haaland has grabbed Cucurella, fouling him first, and Marcus simply grabbed him back after the fact. When a person is put off balance, your natural instinct is to grab the first thing you can in order to stop falling. It's a natural human reaction called the automatic postural reflex. It's something that all adult humans innately do, and you can't exactly stop it. All that's happened here is that Cucurella is trying not to fall over. This is what they call 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, and is never a penalty, especially considering Haaland is never getting this ball in the first place. The VAR doesn't look at the Haaland foul before, only the Cucurella foul, and thus doesn't overrule the decision, which is why this system is flawed. They only look at what they want to look at and not the entire picture. It's corrupt at its worst, or just incompetence at its best. Speaking of incompetence, let's talk about the referee for this game, shall we? Anthony Taylor. I could go on at length about how awful this man is and why he shouldn't have a job, but I'm not going to do that. However, the fact of the matter is, this man should have never refereed this game in the first place. He has gotten so many decisions wrong in Chelsea games. He got demoted to the Championship for being utterly awful, made a mistake in that Championship game, and is somehow given the biggest Premier League game of the weekend? It's not like they don't have other refs that could have taken this match. It reeks of corruption. Not to mention, he's a Mancunian. A ref from Manchester should never be allowed to referee a match where one of the teams is from Manchester. There will always be bias in that situation. It's ridiculous. Not only has he given this wrongful penalty, but he got 3 decisions wrong in the build-up for this penalty call. Firstly, Gallagher is down injured for an extensive period of time and is on the pitch. The treatment of injuries guidance from the FA states that, quote, a referee should halt the game if they believe a player is seriously injured. As the ball is in City's half, he could have very easily stopped the game, let Conor get treatment, then restart the ball with an uncontested drop ball with City in possession. Instead, he ball watches until it's too late to stop the game, showing utter incompetence once again. Gallagher could have had a broken leg or a snapped ankle or something, but because this idiot doesn't do his job correctly, the game continued. Further on in the move, Doku completely fouls Moises Caicedo in the box, again not given. Whilst this is happening, James gets a head injury, which should always be an automatic stoppage of play with the new concussion protocols. Does he stop the game? Of course he doesn't, because he's useless and utterly biased against Chelsea. This should have never been a penalty, but regardless, the cheating Norwegian puts it past Sanchez, and Chelsea have to battle back against 12-man Manchester City. And battle back we did, almost immediately. A beautiful free kick from Reece James is saved expertly by Ederson in the City goal, and it goes out for a corner. Conor Gallagher swings the ball into the front post, and Thiago Silva sneaks in front of Haaland to glance the ball with his head past Ederson and equalising for the Blues. The game would get really back and forth from here, with both sets of players fired up from the roar of the Stamford Bridge crowd, opening the game up massively, and with the home crowd behind them, it was Chelsea who struck again. A long pass from Sanchez would once again be the undoing of City, with them winning the first ball but not able to win the second. Enzo Fernandez snatching the ball away from Ruben Dias and laying it off to Cole Palmer. He finds Reece James after Gvardiol gets himself in an utter mess, and our captain excellently squares the ball across for Raheem Sterling, who, like he so often did for City, taps the ball in at the back post to make it 2-1, celebrating in front of the City fans that turned their backs on him. And with that, Chelsea were ahead and only had to stay alert for 7 more minutes plus added time, and we'd go into the half-time break a goal up. But we were the victims of our own lack of concentration. We slightly switch off at a short corner, Bernardo Silva isn't closed down quick enough by Cole Palmer and he lofts the ball perfectly onto the head of Manuel Akanji, excellently finishing the cross off after getting away from Enzo in the box, equalising for City at the worst of times for Chelsea. After a lengthy amount of stoppage time for the VAR check, the two teams would go into the break level, both feeling as if they could have done better, and both looking to do so in the second half. Real quick, if you're enjoying the content and want to see more, please consider subscribing to the channel. Cheers. So let's talk about the second half, shall we? Almost immediately, Chelsea feel hard done by once again, as Erling Haaland scores his second goal after a quick breakaway from the back. A swift counter-attack that sees the ex-Dortmund forward bundling the ball over the line from a Julian Alvarez cross is once again met with controversy. Firstly, let's talk about the point which I feel is less of an issue, the handball. Though this would have been very harsh and wouldn't feel great to be disallowed for, by the letter of the law this goal could have been chalked off, as it seems to hit Haaland's elbow before fully crossing the line. Again, I wouldn't have agreed with it if it had been correctly ruled that way, but I would have felt it was justified considering the earlier incident which allowed this goal to happen. If we rewind the tape, this move starts off from a City throw-in that was clearly not a throw-in. Conor Gallagher is cynically pushed in the back by Gvardiol, and somehow the linesman that is standing right there doesn't flag this as a foul. Obviously VAR can't come back this far to disallow the goal, but it just feels so unjust because this goal doesn't happen if the referees don't get this decision wrong. Once again, Chelsea would have to battle back against the 13 men of Manchester City, and miraculously we did after a while. Let's quickly look at the changes that Poch made around the 64th minute mark. Enzo comes off for Mykhailo Mudryk and Malo Gusto comes on in a like-for-like change for Reece James. At the start of this half, Palmer had fully swapped positions with Gallagher, with the latter operating as a right mid whilst Cole operated centrally. When Mudryk came on to replace Enzo, Sterling instead would occupy that right hand side with the Ukrainian taking the left hand side, and this meant that Gallagher would go into the pivot alongside Caicedo. Though I think Enzo overall had a decent game, at these latter stages of the game him and Caicedo were getting overrun just a little, and this change to put the energy of Connor back into the midfield was a necessary and snide bit of tactical nuance from Pochettino. Our third goal came from Mudryk on that left-hand side almost instantaneously. I don't think a lot of people are giving him enough credit for this small moment, but the goal doesn't come without it. Likewise, Connor's position allows this goal to occur too. So let's take a look at our equaliser, shall we? It all starts from yet again another long pass, this time from Connor over to Mudryk on that left flank. He touches it down excellently before worming his way up the pitch with a neat piece of dribbling and laying it off for Caicedo. The Ecuadorian lays it off once more to Gallagher, who from this deeper roll lashes the ball hard towards goal, and Ederson can only palm it back into danger. Nicholas Jackson, who had a relatively quiet game up until this point, comes to life in the box and with two touches pokes the ball under the Brazilian shotstopper to score with a hellacious roar from the crowd, spurring him on to complete one of the best knee slides I think I have ever seen. Now, I pointed out Conor Gallagher and his importance to the team in my match preview, and I'm glad that the majority of our fanbase is coming around to see just how good this boy is. Under Pochettino, he has improved massively, not just at the things he was already good at, pressing, ball winning, etc., but his technique has come on leaps and bounds this season too, and is in my mind the most obvious choice for player of the season so far. Chelsea were back into the game and both teams were still fighting to take the lead, and only a few minutes later we get another controversial refereeing decision that could have major implications on this game. Chelsea excellently play their way out from the back away from City's press, and a long ball is aimed for Mudryk down the centre. With his electric pace it looks as if the Ukrainian is going to get to the ball, but Ederson's clearance strikes Kyle Walker's hand that prevents our man from getting the ball. Not only is this handball and a free kick, it should have been a second yellow that would have seen the right back sent off. In some ways it's arguable that this is the denial of a goal scoring opportunity too, and could have been a straight red if the refs wanted to give it. Again, this could have completely changed the complexion of the game, as City would have been a man down, and we saw what Chelsea did to Spurs when they lost men. Alas, this decision was wrongfully not given once again, and we all knew exactly what was going to happen. City were going to get a late winner, and we thought that that prophecy had come true late on, as a massive piece of bad luck against Chelsea happened once more. For City's final goal, a long shot from Rodri, who again arguably could have and should have been sent off in this game for accumulation of fouls, but I digress, takes a wicked deflection off of Thiago Silva, which takes it past Robert Sanchez in goal. Most of us fans, and Rodri too, who knee slided like he scored the winner in a World Cup final, thought that this game was over. This was the goal that had won it for City. But Chelsea just refused to die. The one thing about this game that I was so impressed with was our willingness to never give up. Credit goes to Mauricio Pochettino here, because under Lampard, under Potter, hell, even under Tuchel at times, this Chelsea team would have rolled over and let City have this game. Not this Chelsea though, not Pochettino's Chelsea. This Chelsea is a team of fighters, a team of players that honour the badge, players that understand what it means to be part of a club this big, and knows that despite everything and anything, you play your best to the final whistle. And they did exactly that. Armando Broja comes off the bench late on for Moises Caicedo, Poch putting on an extra attacker to try and salvage something from a game that we deserved something from. And his gamble would be rewarded. 8 minutes are added onto the half due to VAR checks, a lot of goals and a lengthy injury worry for Ederson, and 2 minutes into that stoppage time, Chelsea's substitute would come up with the goods for the Blues. City sit off Chelsea nearing the end of the half, and this allowed Disasi to find a direct pass into Sterling in the half space on the right hand side. His lofted ball is collected by Broja in the box, who delays his shot and baits Ruben Dias into committing a clumsy sliding challenge, wiping the Albanian out. For what seemed like the first time in this game, Anthony Taylor got a decision correct and awarded Chelsea a penalty in the dying embers of the game. Almost like it was written in the stars, the man to take the penalty was ex-City boy Cole Palmer. After a long wait, with the pressure of the world on his shoulders, against his old team, against one of the best goalkeepers in the world, in the last few minutes of the game, at only 20 years of age, he steps up and confidently, coolly slams the ball into the back of the net for 4-4, showing the club that thought he was surplus to requirements that they made a huge mistake letting him go. As Peter Drury said, City's boy is now Chelsea's man, and as I predicted he would, silenced City. That was the story of this game really. Chelsea can look forward to Newcastle United in the Premier League on Saturday in what will surely be a hard-fought game. The match preview for that will likely be out on Friday evening around 7 PM the day before the game, so keep an eye out for that one. And finally, before the end of the video, it's time for the question of the day. As always, I'm going to highlight some of the comments from the last video, so here are a few responses to the last question of the day. Thanks guys for your continued support as ever. If you want your comment to be featured in the next video, leave your answer to this video's question of the day down below with QOTD at the start. So for this week's question of the day, we'll go for a tricky one. Who do you think comes out of the team when Nkunku and Lavia return from injury, and why? But that was just my tactical breakdown for this match. Thank you ever so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this match in the comment section below, and if you'd be so kind, subscribe to the channel and leave the video a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to tap the notification bell so you never miss a video from me, or check out some of the other videos on the channel on screen right now. I've been Mono from Mono CFC, and remember, in the rain or in the dry, keep that blue flag flying high. Come on you Blues.